Hello, hello. This is the My Artifact episode number 3554. Today's date is August 25, 2025. It's been almost like morning at 8:31 a.m. Alright, let's just jump directly to the question. Alright, let's go. Okay, yeah. Question is: rich people usually became rich by. Okay. Um, so how what do you think that why does rich people became rich, or like what exactly is this thing? Okay, the question is actually telling regarding about why the people who already rich became so much rich. Okay, yeah. It's not kind of like a telling that ki, how does people become rich. It's the question is about the people who already are rich, why they are kind of like a somebody became rich person. Okay, let me tell you some sort of mentality and thought process. Okay, yeah. Regarding about my situation and surrounding and what I understand. Okay, I am almost 32-year old. I'm living with my parents and I am not earning any single amount of money. Nothing really at all. My mother always thinks that my son, that means me, should supposed to be earn at least like a 10 to 15,000 so that she would be okay with that thing. Like basically is this thing na ki if I'm gonna say ma'am, mom, like mother, I don't want to earn 10 to 15,000 rupees because it's not really efficient amount of money and I won't be even survive. I need to earn more than thousand. I need to earn lakhs and things like that. But my mother usually thinks that the people who actually earn so much amount of money, those people are earning that much amount of money by wrong way. Okay, yeah. It means from her point of perspective that if you are earning little less, that is your hard-earned amount of money. Hard-earned means like that you put the effort and things like that. But if you earn so much amount of money, that means you are kind of like something such a person that you earn that much amount of money from wrong reason. Yeah, and this is what kind of like something. And this is what kind of like sometimes something like mentality already has so many people, means like that ki most of the people most of the people means like if I'm gonna say most of the parents, they want their child should supposed to be earn just significant amount of money so that they meant to be survive. That's it. Okay, yeah. They don't want their child should supposed to be earn so much amount of money. But like like how are you kind of like saying this thing? Like are you saying this thing true or not? Like basically is this thing, if I'm earning so much amount of money, then probably my mother would be really happy. They are not kind of like a something that sad and things like that. So why would I say something like that? Well, it's not about that ki kind of like a something you already earn so much amount of money and things like that. Okay, let me tell you the perspective. Okay, in this particular in this particular point, you have to be understand the perspective. Okay, yeah. Perspective means like that the perspective of someone else. Okay, देखने का नजरिया, बहाने का दृष्टिकोण. Okay, so what is exactly what I'm trying to tell you? Okay, my words are representing almost like a middle class, which is almost like maybe 70% of the population. Yeah, 70%. like a lower middle class and middle class. Okay, I'm talking about this, which is kind of like consumed by 70% of the population. Okay, now in this particular family, lower middle class and middle class family has kind of like a some sort of constraint and some sort of kind of like a beliefs and stuff like that. Okay, what are those beliefs? Those beliefs that also I'm actually telling this thing perspective from Indian point of perspective. Okay, yeah, and I'm kind of like telling you perspective from lower middle class and middle class point of perspective. Okay, yeah. So what is exactly their perspective, how they look at the world? If I'm gonna say that the parents are always thinks that their child should supposed to be earn some significant amount of money so that that person means that particular son should supposed to be survive or survive his life and stuff like that. But why not parents didn't really think that their son should supposed to be earn more? Like there are very less amount of parents from this category, from middle class and lower middle class family. Very less amount of parents are kind of like a things that my child should supposed to be on more than lakh rupees. They don't really have that much dream, that like if the child is actually earning more than lakh rupees, then that is okay. But the beginning level of education is actually from just 10 to 15,000. That's it. Like most of the parents are actually thinks that कि आप बस इतना ही पैसे कमाओ. Okay, yeah. Why is this thing? Why this kind of like a simply middle class families always thinks that ki earning so much amount of money is wrong? Is because of they seen that kind of like a some life. Okay, yeah. Because let me tell you one thing: the human evolution is kind of like a something happening right now so fast that it just like the human can't even contemplate, or human can't even like yeah, like basically is this thing. What I'm trying to tell you, there are like the diversion of the people. Okay, yeah. What's the diversion? Like basically most of people like you found so many people actually talking about AI business startup this and that and lot of good stuff and stuff like that. Okay, yeah. But other part of the world, other part of the people, they don't really understand what is actually AI. They don't really understand what is actually growth. They don't really understand that thing. So what I'm trying to tell you is this thing: some people are kind of like evolving so much rapidly, and some people are not even evolved that much. Like basically they haven't really seen what is actually internet can do. And this is kind of like only one of the simple and basic thing, right? So this is what kind of like a assembly problem right now, that key most of people don't really understand. And like the kind of like a somebody the like there is no kind of like a somebody average point. Like some people are kind of like a somebody evolved so much, and some people are kind of like a somebody they are less evolved so much. Like basically there is a kind of like a somebody diagonal line, and we can't even kind of like a somebody create the kind of like average between that, because it's yeah. And basically is this thing, the people who are actually think that the kind of like a AI and growth and things like that, those people are actually came from higher middle class family or higher class family. Okay, yeah. So that means what I'm trying to tell you is this thing: they are the way that they born and way that they kind of like a simply given the education from their parents. Their parents are actually seen that ki 10,000 and 15,000 rupees is not had enough amount of money to survive. So basically the people who are actually from higher middle class family or higher higher class family, they are kind of like a somebody tend to their children should supposed to be on more than lakh rupees. So that's why you kind of like a seen the partition between that. Okay, like there's basically rich people child are kind of like a went to the fancy school and things and that. Okay, yeah. And middle class families parents are like their child is kind of like a going to the kind of like a something a state level school and things like that. Does it really matter? Like does it kind of like a something affect the credibility and things like that? No, it's not affect the credibility, but it affect on opportunity. What do you mean by that? Okay, yeah. The most of the kind of like a something the elite company, let's just say Google, Amazon, Facebook, and everything. If they wanted to hire somebody, if they wanted to hire their kind of like a some employee and stuff like that, who do you think they will went? Like which college they will went? they will went to the IIT, they will went to kind of like a some such a private school where is a higher kind of like some growth of the peoples and things like that, right? Like basically the elite kind of like a assembly company will not gonna come to the kind of like assembly private colleges or like a state government colleges. No, they will not gonna come. Why? Because they know that they will not gonna find the talent over there. So what exactly is this mean? That in the state level college or state level things, they don't really have the talent. They have talent. Okay, yeah. But their reputation is actually determined by the college and stuff like that. Did you actually experience this thing now? Like most of the kind of like some elite companies are went to kind of like something higher school and higher private schools and stuff like that. Okay, this is what kind of like assembly is this thing, and this is just a simple example of opportunity. There are so much opportunity. Like basically is this thing that in let's just try to compare the private school and government school. I am actually from the government school. Okay, yeah. So what is exactly I've been through and what is actually like basically I didn't really see in the what is actually private school, what does they do. Okay, yeah. But like basically is this thing, my niece are kind of like somebody goes to the private school, and what they can kind of like somebody offer and what I didn't really get offer when I was in the school. So I'm trying to compare the situation. Okay, yeah. I didn't really have a bus. We didn't really have a bus. We just goes to the school by the cycle, or sometimes we just went to kind of like a by walk. Okay, one thing. Another thing is that usually is this thing at that time, like when I was in the school, the only more focus on just education regarding about theoretical education. Okay, just a theoretical education. Okay, yeah. Like in my school, they have a computer, and we have legit chapter, a legit kind of like a something, a book regarding about computer. Like this is the monitor, this is the processor, this is that. But the people, the teacher who is actually teaching us computer, they won't let us touch the computer. Like basically it's just kind of like a somebody consider it's a kind of like a somebody school property. You just have to see it from the distance and that's it. They just kind of like a say this is the monitor, this is the keyboard, this is the mouse, this is the CPU, that's it. They don't really tell us the internal component regarding about what is actually the graphics processor. They don't really they nothing really at all. Why? Because it's just like that like they think that the people they are teaching, like a student they are teaching, they are not credible enough to kind of like somebody understand the computer. Means like that they judge before our showing the credibility. And how they judge is regarding about where you belong. And that belong means like that the school or kind of like a college or kind of like a which city or things and that. Okay, so this is what I'm trying to tell you. Like basically when you are trying to get the opportunity, like a opportunity get so much to the people who are kind of like a belong to the rich and things like that. They always get kind of like a really good opportunity. Okay, yeah. But as a kind of like the people who are actually from lower middle class or middle class, they don't really get that much opportunity, almost non-existence. Okay, yeah, great. So this is what kind of like something happen. Another thing is that rightful education. Okay, because like basically is this thing when I was raised up, I just taught by kind of like somebody only just couple of things, just like do your school, complete your 11th 12th, complete your graduation, and just do your job. That's it. Okay, yeah. They never really tell us regarding about the business is kind of like a somebody subject. Like basically is this thing when I was in the 10th standard, I didn't really know what exactly profession should I supposed to choose. I just tell them that I wanted to be a software engineer. Why? Because it sounded so cool. I don't really understand what exactly software engineer. I don't really understand what exactly software was that at that time. But I just say I wanted to be a software engineer. And besides engineer and besides doctor, I don't really see any kind of like profession should supposed to be exist at that time. So what I'm trying to tell you is this thing that in my surrounding, they only taught me you have to become only a doctor or engineer or that's it. Yeah. And there is no profession at all. There is no profession exist in this world. And I believe that that is okay. Because I also think that this is also because Like in my surrounding, in my flow of area, everyone has to talk about doctor and engineer, and that's it. I was like I didn't really question, because like I don't really have any kind of like a topic to compare. Because let me tell you one thing now, ki let's just imagine that ki you are kind of like a getting food. Okay, yeah. Now you eating that food. You don't know what is actually that food. You don't know what is actually quality and things like that. Until you try to compare your food with other person food, that particular other person food is kind of like a really good. Then you try to compare, oh, why my food is not tasty and why his food is tasty. So basically when the comparison happened, you kind of like understand that key what I'm actually getting is kind of like a little bit less quality. Okay, yeah. Same thing happened with kind of like in the school, because in the school I didn't really have any comparison. I thought that kind of like a something, whatever I'm getting at the government school, same thing it actually get to the private school. Like at that time I don't really understand what is actually private school too. Okay, what does exactly this is this kind of like a private school can offer? I'm not really sure about that. I don't know nothing really about that. So it's a kind of like a something is this thing na ki sometimes the way that we got the influence is kind of like a something affect on us. Okay, and it affect on mentality. Because let me tell you one thing now, I am belong to this kind of like a something middle class, lower middle class family. Okay, yeah. And I seen that particular kind of like a something variation of the life and things and that and that. Okay, yeah. And because of kind of like a something, I am born in middle class family, so we have a lot of constraint means like that key. Constraint means like we can't do this, we can't do this, we can't do this, we can't do this, we can't do this. Okay, yeah. We always have kind of like a things that key, if you wanted to do this thing, like if you wanted to get succeed in of life, you just have to study. Okay, yeah, you just have to study hard, or at least like a 90% in the exam, and then you will get a job, and then yeah, so that is called kind of like a meaning of success. But soon I grow, like right now I kind of like realize that ki success is like a very fragile, like basically the definition that my surrounding told me when I was in the child was, they are completely false. Okay, yeah. So like I like that's why I kind of like a scene that the rich people are always get a kind of like a something environment a kind of like a something information or education in a such a way that they will meant to become rich. Okay, yeah, they will meant to become rich. Okay, but as a kind of like a something people who actually from lower middle class or middle class, we don't really get that much kind of like a something education or kind of like opportunity or nothing really at all. So that's why the people from lower middle class or middle class, they don't really become that much rich. Like basically if I'm trying to compare, okay, yeah, let's just say that key upper middle class and higher class. Okay, and this is the lower middle class and kind of like a middle class. Okay, so this is kind of like a two categories. Okay, yeah. By the way, there is a like a ultra low, like there is another kind of like a rich category. I'm not gonna counting that thing, and another is a very poor category. Also, I'm not counting that thing because it's a kind of like a something they can't even afford to kind of like a something survive for two times of food. So we are not talk about that. Okay, because they have different problem. So it's yeah, but where I'm just talking about kind of like only two parameters. Okay, let's just say that key people who are actually from lower middle class, they went to middle class. Okay, how they went? They actually went by the generation. Like basically is this thing, when your father is kind of like a lower middle class, they actually born from lower middle class, they are kind of like a try to do job and things and that, and their generation means like that the son or daughter of that particular person is actually born in kind of like a lower middle class. Okay, yeah. Like basically sorry, middle class, sorry. Like the father is actually from the lower middle class, their son or daughter is actually born from middle class. Okay, because that this transition happened. Okay, yeah, now this daughter and son could do effort and things like that, then they will go to the higher middle class family. Okay, yeah. And when they went to the higher middle class family, when they went to the kind of like a rich category and things like that. So what I'm trying to tell you is this thing that if I wanted to be a rich person, then what is exactly way that I have to be go step by step. means like that if I'm kind of like a poor, so that means if I'm kind of like a something lower class family, then I have to be kind of like a something lower middle class family, then middle class family, then higher middle class family, then kind of like a something that key rich, things like that. So this is kind of like a something step, and this step is not happened only one generation. No, its step is actually happened by the multiple generation. Means like that my child and then my this their child and their child and their child and their child and this like that. So this is actually happened growth in India. Okay, yeah. That is conventional growth. Conventional growth means a common growth or kind of like a something a normal growth. Okay, yeah. Now regarding about the rich people and like a higher middle class family and kind of like a lower middle class family. So basically is this thing, the higher middle class family person, he's kind of like a getting such a education that want to become rich, and their probability of become rich is almost like a 70%. 30% might be kind of like something wrong, but 70% probability is that that particular person who actually born in higher middle class family, they went to kind of like something rich. 70% probability. Now regarding about the person who actually born in lower middle class family, okay, yeah, and that lower middle class family, let's just try to jump that he wanted to kind of like something rich. Okay, yeah, rich. So like in this particular time, that particular person who is actually from lower middle class family, he will skip the one step. What is actually one step ahead is a middle class family and higher middle class family. That is a two step. Okay, yeah. So he skipped those two steps and directly jump into the rich. Okay, I directly jump into the rich. Okay, what I'm trying to tell you, okay, it's kind of like something so confusing. Let's just imagine there is a kind of like something two people who is actually like let's just imagine there is a two people who are kind of like a jumping. Okay, there is a 1 meter length, 2 meter length, 3 meter length, and 4 meter length. Okay, yeah, same thing happened. Like a two people, one people is kind of like a only person A is actually come from the rich person, only like basically higher middle class family. Person B is actually kind of like a lower middle class family. Okay, yeah. So what I'm trying to tell you is this thing that the person A, like where he jump, he actually jump kind of like a something from number three. Okay, from number three, like a number three. Okay, and he actually jump from 3 to 4. Okay, 3 to 4, like basically 3 to 4. Like basically is this thing, na? Ki this is where we should supposed to be jump. Okay, where we should supposed to be jump, like the starting point. Starting point should supposed to be happen from the zero, na? Like starting point should supposed to be happen. Both the person should supposed to be jump from zero, right? But the A category of the person is actually jumping from 3 feet ahead. Okay, yeah, and the person who is actually from the lower middle class family is jumping from zero. So what exactly is this thing? The person who is actually from jumping from 3 to 4 is quite an easy. But the person who wanted to jump from 0 to 4, it's so much effort. It really required so much effort to jump from 0 to 4. So what I'm trying to tell you is this thing: the people who actually jump from 3 to 4, 70% probability is that they will gonna jump right and they will gonna succeed. 70%, 70. The people who actually from the jump from 1 to 4, the probability chances is 3 or 2% or less than 5%. Less than 5%. Because why? Because he was actually took lot of effort. Like basically, if I wanted to jump for at least like a 4 feet or kind of like a 4 meter away, then 4 meter is kind of like a something too much. Okay, let's just say 4 meter. Okay, yeah. So if I wanted to jump 4 meter ahead from zero, so basically I have to take a very long run up with so much effort and so much power and things like that, and I can run very 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 fast, and then I jump from zero, and then it will how much effort that I did, if I put the so much effort, then I will went into the fourth position. That fourth position is called as rich. Do you get it? So basically is this thing that rich people always have, the people who actually from higher middle class family or like a family, they always have kind of like a success rate is higher, the probability is almost like a 70%. So they are kind of like a succeed very easily. But the people who are actually from the lower middle class family, they just have to jump they have to put a lot of effort. Okay, the probability of the probability of chances of getting success is less than 5%, and in this point, more than 70%. Do you get it? Do you understand what exactly what I'm trying to tell you there? So, rich people usually become rich is because of that they actually get opportunity, influence, education, understanding. So that's why rich people are getting rich very easily. And yeah, so like this is problem. Yeah, is this problem? Yes. Now how do we supposed to solve this problem? Like a can we kind of like basically before asking this kind of like a some of the problem, is this right or wrong? Yeah, like basically let's just understand, is it right or wrong? Basically rich people became richer, or kind of like somebody their next generation became kind of like somebody richer. Is right or wrong? It's right. There is no wrong. Basically is this thing, there is a rich parents is kind of like a teaching their child that how to become rich. There is no wrong at all. And even if I'm kind of like somebody became rich, I kind of like make sure my children also became rich too. So I'm gonna give the all the kind of like something the information that I've been through and everything, right? So there is no wrong in this thing. Rich people became rich, there is no wrong, it's a right thing. Okay, yeah. So if I'm gonna say this is the kind of like some problem, okay, yeah, then how do we supposed to solve this problem? How do we supposed to kind of like something make sure that the race should supposed to be equal for everybody? So may I able to do that? Well, I can't do that. I can't do that. Okay, yeah. Why you can't do that? Well, basically is this thing na ki if I have to do this thing, I have to be kind of like somebody restructure entire our education system entirely from bottom to top, because it's kind of like a something is this thing that okay, yeah, let me tell you one thing, what is actually our education system and stuff and stuff start something like that. Okay, yeah. Also the information that I'm trying to tell you is not exactly right, but somewhat something right. Okay, yeah. Let me tell you. Okay, so when the industrial revolution happened in Britain, okay, yeah, so they are kind of like a somebody making factories. Okay, yeah, they are kind of like a making factories, but right now the factories, they really require a kind of like a somebody labor force, so that kind of like a somebody the labor force could kind of like understand the what is actually the economics regarding about what is actually this machine do and this machine do and this machine do. Okay, yeah. Now at that period of time, okay, yeah, when the industrial revolution happened, there is no education at all. Like just barely education and kind of like something there is the what kind of like some education was exist was only the people who kind of like somebody write, read, and kind of like something is this thing, that's it. Okay, yeah. A kind of like somebody the people who just have little bit education regarding about the like basically at that time when the industrial revolution happened, being educated is called as a very elite, means like that no one was kind of like somebody afford at that time. So what I'm trying to tell you is this thing that ki the when the owner of the company, they want kind of like somebody labor who understand this thing, they won't be able to hire such a people. They don't really understand what is actually gear, what is actually the camshaft, what is actually is this thing and that. Okay, yeah. So they wanted to hire at least such a person who could understand writing, reading, or things like that. And the existence of those people at that time was really less. Okay, yeah. So they just kind of like understand that ki if you wanted to work in our industry, you need to know how to write, you need to know how to read and things like that. Okay, so they are kind of like a something giving the job for those people who are kind of like a something willing to read and write. Okay, and since then people understand the value of education. Before that there is no education at all. Like before that there is no kind of like a graduation, things like nothing really at all. Yeah, they just kind of like only at that time they develop the language, they develop their some sort of information, things like that. But the problem is that the only elite people are kind of like somebody can able to read and write and things like that, because at that time education considered to be a elite class of thing. Okay, yeah, and that is what it is. So if you wanted to do a job, that means you need to be kind of like a somebody belong to that elite kind of like a people of category, right? So since then, education are associate with the getting a job at that time, like when the industrial revolution happened, and because of the Britain has a kind of like a territory regarding about every continent, like India specifically, so they also kind of like a somebody kind of like a develop their factories and things like that, and they are kind of like a hiring such a people who understand such thing like a reading and writing and things like that, means like they have little bit prior education stuff. Okay, yeah. And since then, the most of the companies and kind of like a jobs and everything is kind of like a associate with the education, means like that if you are kind of like a somebody educate this much further, then you get this job. Okay, yeah. So basically is this thing, does that education determine the credibility of the person? No, definitely not. Then why does at the first place they are kind of like a hiring those people? It's because of that this is the only evidence of they have regarding about that particular person has a read and write. Okay, because let me tell you one thing now, credibility of the people, like basically is this thing, who is that particular person talented or not, is not determined by the education. It determined that the way that he thinks and way that he do and way that stuff like that. Okay, so basically is this thing, the talent is actually born in rich class or in poor class or maybe in everywhere, like basically is this thing that key, it's not meant to be kind of because of talent, but basically this is if you are, but education system is not meant to be finding the good talent. No, it's not nothing really at all. It's a kind of like a somebody treating the people to kind of like a somebody became something really good. Okay, yeah. But education system is really fail on this particular stuff that he, they are not kind of like a somebody letting to find a kind of like a somebody perfect candidate for a kind of like a somebody rightful education things and that. Like let me tell you one thing. Okay, yeah. Do you only think that the Albert Einstein is the only kind of like a some intelligence person on that on on the planet? No, na, like there is so many people who are kind of like somebody game get much so much intelligence more than Albert Einstein or so much more than Isaac Newton or things like that. Oh yeah, but why other person didn't really became those person? Why not like a, why we know Albert Einstein? Why we know kind of like a something Isaac Newton? Why not we know there is the other person who is actually more talented than that? Is because of the opportunity, dude. Because of that the Albert Einstein, the Isaac Newton, they get the opportunity. Okay, they, their existence is kind of like something so much lucky in that particular period of time that that's why they get that opportunity, that's why they understand what is actually this and that's why we actually know that. So opportunities always get to the such a people who are actually from the elite society, and that is definitely true in every civilization. So this is what it is. So that's why rich people always get richer, always get kind of like a something, always have kind of like a thought process and things and that. Okay, yeah. And the people who actually didn't really get that opportunity, didn't really like they didn't really born in that way, so they didn't really get the opportunity. So they just, it's a, it's like I think this is what kind of like a somebody reason. Okay, yeah. Now if I'm kind of like somebody find the solution, like if I'm kind of like somebody what kind of like somebody solution that I should supposed to be do. Okay, yeah. Is that ki I have to be restructure entire education system in India. Basically I'm talking about in Indian education system. Okay, yeah. um Indian education system is always judged by the marks, grade, and kind of like actually how much percentage that you get, which is completely wrong regarding about understanding the credibility of the person. Okay, yeah, definitely completely wrong. Okay, yeah, because in the exam people might kind of like do study, like it basically is this thing that people might gonna do study like okay, let me tell you. Okay, I seen this in front of me. I'm pretty sure that you actually seen this stuff too. Okay, yeah. So there is a person in my classroom was really talented. He was really topper. Okay, yeah. He always get almost like a 90-95 percentage in every classroom. Like really great and really things. Just couple of months ago, I met him. Okay, yeah. And basically what I do is that ki I spend little bit time. Okay, yeah, just little bit time, like basically there is a opportunity came and I kind of like spend little bit time. Okay, yeah. And we are kind of like somebody went to somewhere else, I'm not really sure where was that, but yeah, it was kind of like somebody Chinese Manchurian probably, yeah. So we kind of like gather, like we just gather multiple people from the schools and things like that. Okay, yeah. And we just kind of like something try to talk and stuff like that. Okay, just kind of like some basic things. Okay, yeah. When we eat that thing, when we ate particular that Manchurian Chinese and stuff like that. Okay, yeah. So we actually kind of like simply ate 40 rupees of Manchurian noodles, 60 rupees of Manchurian rice and things like that. Okay, yeah. So we actually ordered multiple cuisine, and after that we are kind of like something billing. So probably there is might be billing like a 30, 40, 60 and things like that. So if I'm gonna say 30, 40, that means 70, 60 means like that ki 130, right? Yeah. I did this calculation like am I like a 30, 40, 60, is it right? Like a 30 plus 40 is almost 70. 70 plus 60, that means 130, right? So it's a very simple calculation. Am I right? Right, yeah. I did this calculation right now, right here in front of you. That particular person who is really talented in the school, he always get 95 percentage in every class semester. He using the calculator. I was like, what the fuck? ये क्या है यार, dude? Okay, yeah. Like you are supposed to be very kind of like a bright student, and you are just using calculator for simple thing. 30, 40, 60, 130. Simple. He is using calculator. I was like, dude, what the fuck is that? Okay, yeah. And not just that, the people who are actually kind of like somebody so much talented in the school, they are like like I thought that their life would be really good, but their life is really also fucked up too. I seen so many kind of like a talented people who are kind of like somebody always get really high score regarding about the education and things and that, but when I seen them, they are kind of like still doing the government studies and they are failing. They're trying again, they're failing. And I'm like, dude, what the fuck is that? Where that talent goes, dude? Where this like okay, what exactly is this thing? Like basically I seen this stuff and you probably seen this stuff too. Okay, yeah, like it's kind of like a thing that ki in your school there is a kind of like a person who's kind of like a really bright, but when you after you see after a year he just kind of like doing the same thing. I was like, what the fuck is that? So this is what fucked up thing happened. Okay, yeah. So basically is this thing, all the opportunities and all the kind of like simply the information and education goes to the such a person who is just kind of like simply good in grades and things like that. That's it. And it's not define the credibility of the person. Definitely not. So how do I supposed to kind of like define the credibility of the person? How do I find the right talent? How do I supposed to get? We need to cut down all the exam. There is no system should supposed to be marked. There is no system should supposed to be kind of like a failure and success, or the person should supposed to be get pass, or this person should supposed to be get fail. Okay, yeah. Because when we have this system, then the people not educate. People are manufactured. Okay, yeah. So when they manufactured, they are kind of like a tend to do only one thing. Job. Just job, that's it. Means like that what I'm trying to tell you is this thing, the people who actually graduated in the college, what is exactly their goal? They want to do a job. What kind of like a job they want? Don't know. What kind of like a what kind of like a somebody field that they are serving? Don't know. They just want job. Like, what the fuck is that? Like it's a kind of like a somebody is this thing that ki I am offering entire buffet. Okay, yeah, regarding about what exactly like there is so many cuisine and stuff like that. Okay, yeah. And basically I'm asking what do you want? They just say food. Okay, but what kind of like a food do you want? I don't know, I just want food. what exactly is this thing? They don't know what exactly they want. They want their Chinese Hakka noodles or kind of like a something, the Italian pasta. They don't know that. They just want food. And if they want food, what I should supposed to be consider? What I want? Like basically I would say, okay, if you want food, yeah, there is a kind of like a sorry Zhunka Bhakar, eat that thing. This is also food too. Because it kind of like costs me little less amount of money. So eat that thing. Okay, yeah. If you just only want this thing of food, eat that thing. It's kind of like a something very affordable for me. So yeah. So if I am the education system and if I'm kind of like a this, so I will gonna giving them this. Okay, if you want job, do this job. That's it. Like basically this thing, the people who are actually graduated from the college, they don't really know what they want to become. They just want job. That's why that's why our education system is not evoking the talent, is not kind of like a simply recognizing the talent or kind of like a simply let them kind of like a giving them what they should supposed to do in their life. We are just manufacturing the people for doing one thing job, and that's it. And that is what actually happened when you are kind of like a simply focus only on exam and kind of like a pass and fail and things like that. This system should supposed to be cut down. But dude, if there is no exam, if there is no pass and fail, how do I supposed to determine which person is really good and which person is not? Okay, yeah. For that thing, it's not only depend on exam, it's depend like basically the overall score of that particular person determined by not the exam but entire semester or entire year. What do you mean by that? Okay, yeah. It means that like basically is this thing, people do homework every single day, teacher actually giving the homework every single day. Okay, yeah. So count that thing na. Let's just kind of like a create a such system where it count the score of your homework, your kind of like a simply the way that activity do in your school, the way that everything is equal. So basically if we count those score, little score, unit test, small test, or kind of like a something simple homework, or kind of like a something just simple thing. Okay, yeah. We if we count all those things, then we will kind of like a figure it out who is that particular person that not only credible enough but he knows what he want. And if we create this particular system, we're gonna kind of like evoke the perfect talent regarding about the perfect future, because this system should supposed to be established. And there is no pass and fail system, so there is no grid and there is no kind of like a depression for pass and fail, nothing really at all. Your credibility is judged by day one. Yeah, day one, you kind of like how you sit, how you this, like basically not just kind of like basically how you do your homework and this and that. Like everything what that particular person do in the school is determined by the small things, that homework and this and that. Okay, another thing is that in the school they should supposed to be teach the real life experience. Because let me tell you one thing na, I seen so many people, they don't know how to draft the email, they don't know how to draft that they want leave for couple of days. Like basically when I was doing a job, there is a couple of people, employee, colleague, they are kind of like asking me, just send me your kind of like a simply the application that you kind of like wrote for kind of like asking for holiday. Like they can't even draft the mail, and they are graduated from the engineering college, all the subjects was in English, but they don't really draft the mail in English. And I'm just talking about drafting, communication is far away. Like people don't even communicate the way that they should supposed to be do in the professional world. What exactly is this thing? They don't like basically the people who are actually kind of like a something come from the engineering college or come from any other college, they have none information regarding about anything at all. Whatever, like basically I'm just kind of like talking for almost like a 43-minute non-stop, and it just sometimes I realize that yeah, I just talk so much. Whatever. But I think this is a kind of like a some reason that I find that rich people how does become rich and things like that. Okay. Also the stuff that I mentioned right now is my opinion, is my thought process. Obviously it's not exactly right, and obviously it's not exactly wrong too. Okay, yeah. It's my stuff, I think. Whatever. There's it. And thank you.